Hello everybody, Brad Johnson here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about cycles of life completion. And so as we're looking into life completion, that's a big set of words. How do we move on from this planet and decide to go somewhere else? What happens when we truly pass on? Well, that is all based upon a subjective outlook as we understand a human being. So if we're looking at a human being who may have had a very quote-unquote rough life, who has a spine attached there, had a very rough life, they may feel that they have had a lot of suffering, led to depression, anxiety, etc. Just going through a lot of complications within society, not being able to bond with people, not feeling secure with themselves. Well, what happens to this person when they suddenly pass on? What is the result of their life cycle? Well, they will basically be kind of like in a type of waiting queue. And this waiting queue will again lead them back up into the tunnel of light, and they'll be able to take a look at a life review. And it is the life review itself that allows you to make the decision to come back to Earth or not. It's not so much in the form that somebody who sees their life review here, which I'll just call LR, and sees their life review and saying, no matter what happens, I don't care, I'm never coming back to Earth again, right? In a way, that's not for the conscious self to decide. It's when you are disembodied, when you're returning back as an entity, and you are looking back at the life review. And you are basically seeing all of this suffering. You are feeling this depression. You are feeling this anxiety. You are feeling all of the compacted, collective emotions of everybody that you've associated with, that you may have stimulated suffering upon them, stimulated suffering upon yourself, and you're seeing it all happen, all chain effect at once. And you're just experiencing all of this. And afterwards you feel, oh my God, wow, I gotta go back. I gotta go back to Earth. I gotta do another life. I want to really try and make amends. I want to try and repair this, right? So then the guardians of the Earth will say, all right, if you want to come back, then here is some selections of lifetimes that you can come back as, that will represent your own soul matrix, your own soul nature, bonded with this incarnation. And so we come back because we look at all of the emotional pain that we have gone through. And being able to experience all of that at once, you can't describe that. You can't even perceive that. Even with me receiving this type of intuitive flow, I can't even perceive that. It can be so intense, so incredibly overwhelming. And you're just in that position to want to make amends and saying, I will do whatever it takes, please let me back. I want to be able to come back, and I want to be able to clean up a lot of this karmic debris. So the guardians will say, all right, we accept that offer. We'll let you back into the Earth, because the Earth has her own guardians. They are the keepers of this planet. They are the ones that decide the incarnate process of who is going to incarnate where, as who, how it's going to affect everything, etc. That's part of their mission. That's part of their tasks. And so you will come back again and relive another life, reversioned with all of these particular debris that are now attempting to be harmonized. Now that is not to say that that life is going to guarantee itself to become harmonized, because we have free will on this planet. Earth is a free will planet. We have the decision to really uplift ourselves or to really cause ourselves to plummet. That is not something that is quote-unquote predestined through our own awareness. Spirit is certainly aware of exactly how that life is going to turn out, but as us, as the conscious self, as the incarnate being, we have no idea, right? That's the whole idea here, is that we come back to this world, we start to make amends with a lot of this karmic debris, with a lot of these particular forms of emotion, right? So that's giving just a brief overview of the karmic cycle once one passes on from this plane. and is looking to make amends and create another incarnate lifetime, and wanting to fix things up and basically say, I will go on a spiritual journey, I will become this empowered person, and I want to be able to repair all of this. Well, you certainly have the capability. Here's the stage, let's see what you can do, right? That's basically the arrangement here. So basically you're looking at the higher order that would represent the spiritual hierarchy, which we'll call SH. This spiritual hierarchy is basically non-physical essence, or NPE. They are basically, which you could refer to as types of earth immortals. They are basically the guardians, like the angels of the earth, and they are the ones that dictate who is allowed to come upon the planet. And so they will arrange this. They already know what you're going to do. And they'll say, yeah, go for it, right? And they have the aspect of moving beyond space and time and seeing all of this and saying, well, this would be part of the game. You would be one player of the game, whether you succeed in being able to tie up all those loose ends, or whether you fail, doesn't matter, because you're going to add to the part of the collective consciousness that reflects the energy of the collective game, right? So they are the administrators of the Earth experiment. Every planet has this. Every planet that sustains life has the aspects of these gatekeepers, these game makers, or these game keepers in that way, whatever you want to call them, guardians, etc. But let's look more into the cycle of life and how we do reach completion. So again, I get a lot of people telling me through sessions and otherwise, Brad, I just can't wait to get off this planet. I just can't wait to leave. I just can't wait to finally maybe leave this life and then go somewhere else. All right, well, we have to understand firstly that we are a pebble being thrown into the pond. And that basically we have these ripple effects. So it is rippling out as this pebble hits the pond. And we are basically the ones that have caused those particular types of ripples. It's not just the idea of you withdrawing from a game, right? I get so many people that say, yeah, can I just call a spaceship down? They can just pick me up and get out of here. No, you can't, right? To have such a contract like that is unbelievably, extremely rare. To actually being picked up from a civilization and say, okay, you never have to be here again, right? Anything that would even do that would basically be a violation, right? And there would be karmic consequences. If basically a ship came down, beamed you up, and then took off, there would be some severe karmic consequences relating to the beings that did that to you in that way. Because basically when they do that, they really don't have good intentions in mind, right? But basically if we're focusing on the idea of us being this pebble thrown into the pond, we are creating these ripples. And that we have to take responsibility for these life cycles, for what we do. For this represents the aspect of karma, which what I've talked about before simply relates to that of action, to that which puts forward intent. Karma can be seen as negative or positive, or it can be seen in the aspect of neutrality, because it's basically just letting you know you are blazing a trail. You are setting a trail for every moment that you exist here on this planet. And you are taking responsibility for every form of stimulation that you throw. Every pebble that you throw into the pond, you're taking responsibility for that. A lot of people don't want to hear that because they may feel, I don't want to have to take responsibility for every single one of my actions. Then who else is going to? You're the one that is primarily responsible, the only one responsible for all of your actions, which means only you can repair them, only you can heal them, right? So the whole idea here is that once we start to understand this, and we start to allow those ripples to soften without throwing more rocks into the pond, and we now allow that water to become still, now we're basically coming into an alignment where we're making peace with ourselves. This is what completion means. So when we're looking at life completion, we're looking at the peace, the tranquility, the authenticity of ourselves. That's it. If we feel that we are so heavily emotionally compromised, and saying, oh, okay, I never have to go back to this planet again, and we look at that life review, we're going to bring ourselves back, right? That's just the whole idea, is that we would just be so overwhelmed we'll want to go there. Well, what about what's happening with the third and fourth density shift? Is it true that some people may be leaving a planet? In this particular type of instance, this may be true. Yes, there may be others that will be going to a world almost identical to Earth, but they will still be reliving a lot of those particular forms of principles because we are moving into a fourth density Earth. That is very true. Nonetheless, you're still going on to some planet that is almost similar to the Earth and going through all of these experiences once again. So the whole idea is that that's your tether. This is the idea of you corded to the Earth and saying, okay, I don't want to do anything with you anymore, or I'm leaving, goodbye. Or to another planet, okay, I don't want anything else to do with you, I'm leaving, goodbye. No, 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 no. You get your butt back here, mister, Mrs. You have to understand that you created all these ripples in the pond. Even if you tried to leave the planet and go somewhere else, those trails are going to follow you. They will never, ever end until you are able to break the loop. And in order for you to break this loop, you need to bring peace, tranquility, and authenticity into your life. And that is how you are balancing your life cycle. You are now being able to work with those emotions. You are healing those particular types of emotions and bringing peace and balance to yourself. So it's the idea of feeling. Well, let's look into authenticity. Let's go ahead and take a look and see how I can continue to be authentic, because Brad talks about authenticity so much. But what does he mean? What exactly is he talking about as it relates to authenticity? Authenticity. The ability to be yourself without any particular conflict that invalidates your natural path. That would represent authenticity. So not being in conflict with any of your decisions, with any of your choices, with where you feel you want to go in life. So, in order for us to truly understand what is authentic, we have to understand one particular thing. We have to see what we have validated in life. And when we're looking at what we have validated, this is basically something that is the ultimate primer decision about how we can evolve ourselves or therefore be of lack of evolution. We have to say that if we obey a certain belief system that has been handed down by another person, and we validate that, then that basically represents a type of confinement. That represents a contamination. You are contaminated when you have beliefs that have not been brought forward through your own authentic natural self. So basically, having all of these particular beliefs of saying that I have to make sure that I can only work in this industry, or I have to be a very quiet person because I'm afraid to speak, all of these justifications and validations, we give validations to these contaminations, to these confinements. And so, we have to be aware of what we are validating. We need to create a list, right? What are our beliefs? Well, we find that out when we are emotionally triggered. So, somebody says something and we become triggered. Good. Look at that. Find out exactly how you're reacting. All right, now I'm feeling angry. Now I'm feeling jealous, etc. I'm feeling all of these particular forms of emotions as I get triggered. So we want to be able to write them down. We want to be able to document these, right? Let's say, for example, you've done a really good job being able to heal a lot of those emotions. Great job. Now, you feel you're moving up the escalator to a path of authenticity. This is feeling good. I'm really, really enjoying life. Everything's great. Then all of a sudden, psh, something blocks your way, preventing you from continuing to follow your authenticity. Well, it's basically the universe saying, hold up, just a minute. It hits the emergency button on the escalator, and it stops. You can only come this far, and you can only go further once you deal with this. So a situation will come up where you just feel like, poof, something has slammed the brakes on you. And now, it's another trigger. Now here's this emotion, here's that emotion, and here's this other emotion. This is what you need to work on before you can proceed. So basically what's happening is that we're playing with cycles, right? So it's kind of like looking at circles within circles within circles. Within this particular circle, we're able to harmonize that. We have been able to take care of that outer layer and being able to work with a lot of great emotions. Fantastic. Now we can go here, right? And there's more circles, etc. And so we start to go into the next layer, and all of a sudden, we hit a brick wall because we've reached that collision zone with that layer. And it's saying in order for you to go into this layer, you need to deal with this bit of debris here. Once you deal with this bit of debris, you can go further. You can move into another layer, right? That's what the universe is telling us. So once we deal with that, we're able to continue our climb. Sometimes we may get hit again. Poof. Here's the emotions you got to deal with. Deal with them. Heal them. Work with them. Harmonize with them. And you continue to go up the escalator. Each and every bit. Every time you're peeling off these layers of emotional states, going deeper and deeper and deeper into yourself, until you feel so at peace with yourself, there is nothing that anyone could do on this planet to ever trigger you ever again. That's the idea of completion, right? Now, some may say, well, Brad, is that even possible? Is it possible to be of 100% love on this planet? It absolutely is. In fact, if you go way off into the Far East, see many of these grand masters, ancient masters, there is nothing you could do to ever trigger them, right? You could set them on fire, and they'd just be sitting there in bliss. I'm not joking, right? You could do all of that stuff, and they would not be affected because they are so in bliss that they do not identify themselves with any particular part of the body, right? They are just so greatly in happiness. It's amazing, right? Now, being able to move into a fourth density planet, we do not need to really, quote unquote, be 100% in love. There's just a certain percentage of moving into a fourth density planet for us to graduate, to being able to know that we're being aware of ourselves, we're going through challenges, but we're climbing that mountain. We're looking to become self-improvement. And that's helping you to move more into fourth density. I'm not saying that you need to go to India and meditate in a cave for 20 or 30 years to be 100% unconditional loving. So you can certainly reach advancement with fourth density. Again, looking into what you could refer to as 51% of love or greater. Even mentioned in the Law of One material as well too. So that certainly is a possibility. And that's moving into the advancement of fourth density. But to truly reach a state of cycle of completion, to basically move into a state of spiritual immortality, it's about moving into life completion, 100% love. Now, basically, what am I talking about with spiritual immortality? I'm not talking about physical immortality. I'm talking about the idea that you are actually able to jump off the wheel of karma for good. And that can only be done when you have that type of connection of 100% love, where you hold absolutely no belief systems whatsoever, where you are not triggered by anything, where you are basically at peace. You feel the interconnectedness of all life here and now in between yourself. That is basically the aspect of life completion, completing the cycle and being able to return back into the non-physical ethers and jumping completely off the wheel of karma, the wheel of time, the wheel of space, the wheel of matter, and becoming this immortal. Now, basically, the immortal is represented in that way as being your own self and being able to carry that into the higher ether planes, where you are not wiped clean, where you're not basically going through that mind wipe, so to speak, as you come back and incarnate again, which means you recall everything. Your memories come flooding back to you. You become truly multi-dimensional as a non-physicalized essence. And you are basically seen in that aspect of immortality that represents the degree to where you have all of your memories, all of your personality, aspects of individuality programming intact, and you take that with you. Through that, you are able to manifest bodies, you are able to go to any particular realms, you can even manifest on Earth as a holographic conduit. You can basically do anything you want in that particular frame. This is moving beyond the aspect of being an entity to being an essence. So when you are an essence, you are again capable of pretty much anything you wish, right? You're not confined to the wheel of karma. You are basically being an observer, and you're witnessing certain things, and you're connecting more deeply to the universe. This is what we could refer to as a lot of the ascended masters go into this type of immortality. They have done this very deep, secretive type training and have been able to advance themselves past the wheel of karma. You could look at that with Buddha. You could look at that with the Christ energy. You could look at that with the Krishna spirit. You can look at that with all of these ancient masters that have been able to do that. And this is why they are so regarded in the idea of feeling their connection, their essence, through other people. Why so many people are connected with the Buddha. They think that they're the next Buddha, or they think they're the next Yeshua, or anything like that. It's because when you're in that alignment and you keep your personality intact, you can bond your essence with other people to function as guides, to work in that form of communicative essence. This is why people see images of Jesus or images of Buddha when they're basically going through these experiences, because they've had some type of relationship to that essence. And that essence can be anywhere, anything, anytime, anyhow. Right? That's basically the whole idea here. About going into the cycle of life completion and graduating and going off the wheel of karma altogether. Right? So looking back at all of this, you want to discover exactly what you are validating. And even if you feel that you have really started to follow a path of validation, you may notice that you may stumble upon something else that you have validated in the past and don't realize that you have, right? One particular example in that sense is if you feel you're really working a spiritual path and you're doing great, you're changing your diet, everything is feeling really, really good, but all of a sudden you just get this hesitation about trying to change into a new diet. You're still very much caught up into this and feeling, no, it won't work, it won't work. All of a sudden you get very, very sick, right? Well, basically what's happening is that there is cross-contamination of validation. So we can basically refer to this as cross-C. Okay? You basically enter a validation cross-contamination, which means that you have validated something else as a belief in the past that has not yet been resolved, and you attract something that is in conflict with your in a way that's not for the conscious self to decide. It's when you are disembodied, when you're returning back as an entity, and you are looking back at the life review. And you are basically seeing all of this suffering. You are feeling this depression. You are feeling this anxiety. You are feeling all of the compacted, collective emotions of everybody that you've associated with, that you may have stimulated suffering pass on. Well, that is all based upon a subjective outlook as we understand a human being. So if we're looking at a human being who may have had a very quote-unquote rough life, who has his spine attached there, had a very rough life, they may feel that they have had a lot of suffering, led to depression, anxiety. Hello everybody, Brad Johnson here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about cycles of life completion. And so as we're looking into life completion, that's a big set of words. How do we move on from this planet and decide to go somewhere else? What happens when we truly light? And they'll be able to take a look at a life review. And it is the life review itself that allows you to make the decision to come back to Earth or not. It's not so much in the form that somebody who sees their life review here, which I'll just call LR, and sees their life review and saying, no matter what happens, I don't care, I'm never coming back to Earth again, right? Etc. Just going through a lot of complications within society, not being able to bond with people, not feeling secure with themselves. Well, what happens to this person when they suddenly pass on? What is the result of their life cycle? Well, they will basically be kind of like in a type of waiting queue. in this waiting queue will again lead them back up into the tunnel of